Today is the 19th anniversary of the September 11th attacks, where 2,977 people perished in attacks on the World Trade Center, the Pentagon, and the crash of United Flight 93 in Pennsylvania. The tragedy of these attacks did not, however, end on that fateful morning. It was just the beginning of America's never-ending global war on terror. With the imagery of the attacks and the carnage on every television that day in 2001, the propagation of a new war began almost instantly, as did the attacks on Muslims and people of Middle Eastern and South Asian descent. In a massive patriotic frenzy, George W. Bush's approval rating shot up to 92%, and nearly the entire political establishment united around the message that somebody, somewhere, has to pay. And on September 18th of 2001, which is about a week after the attacks, the U.S. Senate passed the Joint Resolution 23, better known as the Authorization for Use of Military Force, which is a virtual blank check to wage war without end against anyone, anywhere, to retaliate for 9/11 and to, quote unquote, prevent future acts of terrorism. And first, of course, is Afghanistan. Despite the Taliban's offer to hand over Osama bin Laden, the U.S. went in. It's now become America's longest war and occupation ever. Then came Iraq, which had no connection of any sort to 9/11, and of course there was also the false pretense of weapons of mass destruction. Now nearly 2 million people have been killed in Iraq. The country was completely destroyed. That ultimately led to the rise of ISIS. The U.S. opened a covert drone program in Yemen, Pakistan, Somalia, and elsewhere. Utilizing CIA kill list, the president was able to approve targets in any country in violation of all sovereignty at any time. Human rights abuses have also been rampant during the global war on terror, as documented very well in the Senate's 2014 Select Committee on Intelligence study of the CIA program. It's known as the torture report in general parlance, as it were. And the torture report, which the CIA tried to prevent from even coming out, detailed the enhanced interrogation techniques, which were completely and totally ineffective, by the way, but included things such as waterboarding, sleep deprivation, and other forms of physical and psychological terror. Detainees were not just captured in battle, but oftentimes kidnapped with little to no evidence to back it up in one country and placed in black sites in other countries, most of them tortured. Civilian casualties have often been significantly reclassified to hide the true toll of the drone strikes and these wars. 13-year-old Zubair once testified in Congress that he now preferred gray skies because the drones do not fly when the skies are gray, as he told Congress. According to a report released by Brown University's Watson Institute of International and Public Affairs, 37 million people have been displaced by 8 post-9/11 U.S. wars. 37 million. Both Obama and Trump have promised to end these wars, but the reality is thousands of soldiers remain in Afghanistan and Iraq and many other places. And the current Democratic nominee, former Vice President, former Senator Joe Biden, was an unapologetic Iraq war supporter, and this time around has been endorsed by many major Republican war hawks from the Bush era that were doing everything they possibly could to promote these wars. And of course, both parties have massively expanded the military budget since 9/11, most recently this past December, where even 188 Democrats, you know, the resistance, approved the highest military spending budget in history, a whopping $738 billion. Since the beginning of the U.S. war on terror, the U.S. has appropriated and is spending $6.4 trillion. With the COVID-19 global pandemic sweeping the country and the world, nearly 190,000 Americans dead and counting, it's very clear that we need a government that's dedicated to saving lives, instead of one, like for the past 19 years that we've had, that seems entirely dedicated to destroying them.